Cool. Hey, everybody. It's the 10th of April, 2024. This is Gimbalabs Open Spaces. We get together on Wednesdays and Thursdays to figure stuff out together. Sometimes we build, sometimes we talk ideas. We always start by setting the agenda. So here is the Miro board that we use each week. If you've been here before, you know the drill. I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes just to give everybody a chance to collect their thoughts. If there's something you want to talk about today, grab a sticky note, add it to that sticky, move it to somewhere if that applies, or just keep it where it is. And yeah, if you don't have access to the Miro and you want to unmute or drop a note in the chat, you can do that. Otherwise, see you in 2 minutes. All right, all right. So we got a couple ones in the main room today. This is exciting. Harsha, I think this was you, feedback on Lo-Fi community site.
Yes, yes, it was.
Cool. So yeah, we can jump into that. And who's this? Quick update on, is that a Greek letter?
That's me. So yeah, remember how we talked? You told me you have someone who wants to write PBL in Russian.
Cool. Excellent. Yep, we can jump to that. One thing I was bringing today, I was just talking to Hinson earlier, and we were talking about um, one thing that different dev-centric courses might include. And this would apply to maybe Plutus PBL, Aiken PBL, Mesh PBL, and other future courses, is having some kind of shared specification for a simple contract, right? And we're thinking of a contract as a combination of the validators and the transactions that are used to build those validators. So we could say more about this, but I think this could be a really nice way to get us into the actual building of the PPBL 2024 course, because in module 101, people are going to be looking at a few different ways to, or the faucet contract in a few different languages. And if we have a spec, this might help us draw connections between the different validator languages. So if there's time, jump into that. But Harsha, maybe we start right here. Are you all set to go for screen share?
Yes, let me quickly share my screen. So this is what I have. So I know this is kind of more of a mainstream website design and not directly, I didn't take elements from the Gimbalabs main site directly, um, just because people are used to the straightforward designs and it is easier for them to navigate. But this is how I'm thinking about the website. Uh, so the main navigation tools are home, which is this page, resources, which basically gives a bunch of resources about Cardano and other things. And I am doing that. Are you guys able to see my screen, by the way, or am I?
Oh yeah, looks good.
Okay, okay. So give me 1 second. So Hinson mentioned that he wants the community site to be a place where people can learn about Gimbalabs and Cardano in general. Uh, so that's why I put all the resources in there. Um, so first they learn about what Gimbalabs is. Then in the second paragraph, they learn about the local chapter of Gimbalabs, and then they have all the links to connect the socials and the Gimbalabs main site. And then we go to the things that they can immediately do, which is either they're interested in events or courses or interested in hosting a Gimbalabs chapter or teach a course or conduct an event. And then we introduce Cardano and why we chose Cardano and give a couple of official links for Cardano. We share our partners. This is mostly like a trust building section. Similarly, what is Project Catalyst so that we can showcase, Hinson can showcase the local chapters funded proposals and official Project Catalyst website. And this is the team and then the footer. Similarly, in the resources, it'll just be like a bunch of things. We'll have to figure out what goes into resources if ever we decide that resources is something important. And lastly, in the participate section, we have a brief introduction that I copied from the PPBL. And then we have the courses. They can just click on this and then it takes them to the courses. And if they want to become a host, they apply here. And the calendar I didn't get to yet because it's like a lot of design. And if we make changes, the whole thing will take a lot of time. So I'm leaving that for now. But this is what I have. Do you guys have any questions in terms of navigation? And by navigation, I mean, okay, there's a new person on this site. What do they want to do? How do you think they'll go about things and stuff like that? Maybe I can. Uh, I don't have like a paid thing, so I can't like share a link. Um, but let me. So this is how it'll look.
Yeah, overall, I think it's quite, yeah, maybe I finish first. Overall, I think it's quite good. Some comment or I don't know, not sure point is, for example, with this Project Catalyst, I'm not sure if people coming into this kind of website, are they really interested onto it just at the first time looking into it? And then the
Yeah.
second thing I'm thinking about is maybe we can put more photos somewhere, yeah, rather than just tests.
So I remember you mentioning that you'd like to share the Catalyst proposals. Do you think people would understand what those proposals are if we don't introduce, or maybe you'll know your audiences better? What do you think, Hinson?
I don't know. And yeah, let me give it a think before give an answer.
Yeah, yeah. But in general, how is everyone thinking about navigation? What do you think people would visit the community site for as opposed to the main Gimbalabs site?
I see Alex has a hand up too, and I have some thoughts on that question.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
Alex, you want to go first?
I think you should go first.
I think that wide is like getting us at some driver. And if the driver is to create resources that make sense to local communities, I think that's really exciting, right? So ideally, you guys are partly answering that why question in the fact that this is built for locals. So yeah, like in regards to that, are you thinking, is your question about something separate from that?
No, I think it is for the local folk, but I understand that events and maybe hosts are the only two things they would not be able to see on the main Gimbalabs site. But otherwise, all of the rest of it is pretty much like what the main Gimbalabs site offers, I think.
Yeah, so it's a repackaging of ideas for a specific audience. And if we do a good job on a local site, now this is a template, right? Now other people can use it. I think that's really exciting.
One thing I think there could be a section on as maybe calendar, something around calendar.
Yeah.
Or
So
it's
I
just-
didn't design that part yet. Yes,
I
definitely
see.
calendar. Yeah.
Okay. And another thing may be, I'm thinking from the story point of view, maybe just at the first glance on the website, I will feel quite good if I could see the kind of the latest event in the local setting. Like just coming onto the landing, already seeing some photos of the latest events, and then upon scrolling down, it then comes to the intros, like what is Gimbalabs Hong Kong, what is Cardano, those kind of things. Just get people's attention at just at the time that they land the page. That would be cool. And I think also Nelson's point, I think is kind of good as well. Maybe we could just change the project catalyst thing into the current projects or active projects. Just we talk about the substance directly, but not really have to intentionally link it to catalyst funding. Yeah. But
And by
overall, I really like the work.
And when you say current projects, are you referring to like projects that people are building, like the high frequency decks that you are building, those kind of things, or what are you thinking?
I'm thinking maybe that's a great question. Maybe there is a two-layer of meanings. So the first layer is, let's say Gimbalabs Hong Kong was currently up to, like for example, we are planning developer series. This is a current active project that we'll put on here. Just this Gimbalabs local community as a subject was an active project.
Got it.
Another meaning of active projects could be the community, the projects of community members. Like my DeFi project could be the projects of the community members. Like there's someone in this local community that's building something that we could also outline it here. But perhaps on a separate demonstration, like very similar but separate. Just one is kind of the official flagship events or flagship projects going on. And the other is more about the community. How's the community doing?
Got it. So this section would preferably be updated constantly, right? Because people will keep building stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it could be kind of in a standard format. Maybe left side is the photo, right hand side is a brief description, and then pass a link here. Something like read more, and then we redirect people to elsewhere. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay.
Just to serve as a more of a template point of view, so that people could more be easier to replicate in other geo as well.
Okay. So I was just like showing this because NNG Group is one of the top UX research companies in the world. And their website, they also offer courses like us and certificates and consulting and all of that. And their homepage, like you said, Hinson, it immediately like mentions all the current research articles they have produced and all of that. And on the side, they have like the training schedules and course schedules. Do you think something like this would help? Something like, I mean, in our case, we would definitely need to have like an introduction to Gimbalabs and the local chapter, I think, because people wouldn't necessarily know. NNG is like a famous group, so most people know what they do. So for us, I think the introduction would be important.
Yeah, I think the introduction can be somewhere right after some eye-catching visuals, and perhaps the most recent photos from most recent activity.
Okay.
And the first piece of info they could get is about maybe Gimbalabs Hong Kong.
Okay.
And yeah, just a lot of random comments. Sorry. Another thing I think is good to have is perhaps we could add some call for action at the beginning or at the end. Like
Call
for example,
or
or call to action. I forgot the word.
Yeah.
Perhaps it could be, let's say Gimbalabs Hong Kong, we're looking for collaboration from uni or business or anything, or if you are a student, feel free to join the course, something like that.
Okay.
Just, yeah, or if you are kind of interested in general, you could join Discord, Telegram, something like this. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
So call to action as in, but would you like, so would you not call these like a call to action, like the having the socials here?
I think there's a part of the call to action that's lack one element as kind of guiding the reader what they should do. Perhaps I'm just a random interested person. I want to click on the Telegram. Perhaps I'm a business owner. Maybe I will be more interested onto a direct contact to discuss. Maybe I'm a student. I better just get into the Discord, start looking at the education material, maybe PPBL, those kind of things. Just mapping the readers to where they want to be.
Okay. So when we are mapping the readers, so how are you thinking in terms of mapping? Should we just have like a static text that says students do this and this, like project managers, like what personas do you think would usually visit?
I'm not sure as well. Just out of maybe blind guess or imagination, maybe something like a carousel, just rename one by one, say student, join our Discord, and then 3 seconds, and then it will scroll to the next one. Business owner, we're open for business collab. Contact us here. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, but it's not 100% sure what's the best way to do it, but yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So so I have, instead of introducing Project Catalyst, we introduce like current events and all of that, or maybe the current events go on top. And then we introduce what is Gimbalabs and the local chapter and what they can do. So should I remove the participate section and just have for students do this, for business owners do this, and for um,
Yeah, actually, maybe the participate session serve
That's
similar
a pretty cool
purposes.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could just merge it a bit, make the message a bit clearer. Just keep using participate, maybe good enough. Actually,
Okay.
I overlook
Okay.
it a bit. Yes.
And in terms of resources, you said you wanted them to understand about like Cardano and Gimbalabs and all of that. In the resources section, is there something you wanted, or is it just like general reading materials and general references that people can go to and read in their own time?
I think it's pretty cool as well. Just keep it maybe because that's not the landing location. Like
Mhm.
people would just press resources when they are really seeking for resources.
Okay, okay. Okay, and with the courses section, are you, and I just like put courses and become a host in the same page just because we only have 3 courses now, right? Like Plutus, Mesh, and Cardano Go, right? As the number of courses increase, maybe like we can make this a different page.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually the cool part of it is for resources and courses, it could be we could just duplicate it for different geos just directly. So I think just keep that.
We can also pull from like a public Andamio endpoint just to pull in current Gimbalabs
Yeah.
courses, stuff like that. So that'll
Yeah, that would be cool as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Sounds
so far so good.
okay. Okay.
Thank you, guys. So,
Mhm.
Harsha, you asked the question last week, about Ken's proposal too. Are there resources you guys need right now, or is this work that's just happening in that circle anyway?
So I was going to do it anyway, personally, just because I wanted to learn if I can like design and build using AIs. But yeah, I'm not looking for any resources personally. How about you, Hinson? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking about how to offer resources. Like I'm discussing with the team how much is this overlapping with the Hong Kong proposals. So if we could fit in some part of it, we could just use some part of the SIDAN Labs Fund 11 treasury to fund this work. And as of the development, we have got the developer ready to implement it once the UI is done. Probably it's Leon. James know about him. Yeah. And as of a longer term perspective, I'm thinking maybe we could wrap this work in some sort of Fund 12 proposal submitted from the perspective of Gimbalabs. Like we're hosting maybe some Gimbalabs local community things. That's the setup that we want to do. Maybe a website, a template, or research through a structure on how to host a local community, this kind of thing. Maybe there would be a good proposal for Fund 12. That's what thinking in my head right now. So probably unless anyone is just interested in this work, I'm not expecting any resources for this. Yeah, at the moment.
Sounds good. So if anyone has any comments that or any feedback, like now is the time, because I'll be moving to the next stage.
Yeah, I can share. I will just, if nobody has any other ideas, I will share my screen and just present another website for like you to just look at it and just maybe get inspired. All right.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Can you see what I see?
Yep.
So you see this website? It just reminded me, like we were saying about some research organization, and there's another research like nonprofit organization like Gimbalabs. So I just look at this design and was like, wow, pretty awesome. You know, for me, coming back from like when I was in university, 2000s, 2010s, something like this was pretty, you know. And then maybe it's better to, how do I do this? Yeah. Wow.
We got Notion now. Alex, do you still have sound? It looks like you might be muted.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
Oh, sorry. I didn't notice. So this website, right? I was just guys were talking about a research organization and a non-profit organization, which is Gimbalabs, right? And this website says non-profit applied research organization, which is pretty close. And then, wow, it like I just looked at this website and it resonated with me quite, you know, because it looks pretty geeky, right? And what you showed in your website like kind of resonated with this website as well. So like just take a look and maybe it will give you some ideas about UI and UX, right? So then I want to move on to my proposal. Any objections?
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so this proposal, we were discussing about doing plus project-based learning in Russian. And you, James, said that there's someone who also wanted to do this in Bulgarian. And
Romanian.
Romania. Is Romanian Slavic? I don't know. Well, doesn't matter. So I was just thinking about, you know, Russian language primarily, but there's like, as you said, I was thinking about also just including other people from uh, Slavic origin. And I just chose this symbol because this symbol is present in the Proto-Slavic language, so far as like scientists think. So what I did, most work I did right in the proposal, which outlines like quite a few things about how this would work. In particular, the resources, like it would be cool to get something out of it. But as I said, like because I have no really like some things can interfere, so I was going to ask to reserve funds and to have payouts if the community supports me, not at this time, but maybe next time. So to reserve funds from the treasury and pay me a little bit from the treasury in a while, but not right now because we need to like first there needs to be some movement with the proposal, and it's blocked by release of PBL because what's left for me to do is just make write announcements and post them in Telegram groups, and then host live meetings. So yeah, from this, well, what kind of what moved me to continue this proposal? I made polls in 4 Telegram groups, which total about 10,000 users, and I had about like maybe 50 people who considered taking the course. From 10,000 users. Well, supposedly we can have 1 person would sign up. It's not a lot, but what really like was inspiring that group admins sign up to at least. So the poll was very likely, 50-50, unlikely, very unlikely, how likely you're going to take the course. So admins of the groups were somewhat enthusiastic about taking Cardano, and in particular, I addressed audience and Rust community and Haskell community. So that's pretty much it. Well, I don't know, just for review, no pushing anything now, and maybe like any feedback if you have would be great.
Any action items for anybody else right now?
As I said, action items for me are to wait and help deliver Pluts PBL. And then once that is kind of in our scopes, write announcements and post the announcements. And then if we're moving forward, it makes sense to do this if I want to host live hours for the people, because for the learners, because otherwise it looks like the essence of PBL to have live support. Well, so yeah, I'm just kind of, it's average. I would say it's low priority at the moment, because most of the things that I wanted to do, I did, and some things that, yeah, action items to just deliver the main PBL.
Cool. Thanks for getting this started. Yeah, I know that Tudor, he's been to a couple meetings here. He said he'll get back to me when planning is starting to get underway. He's traveling right now, but is going to follow up with a project proposal. And when I
Right, maybe makes sense to share my proposal with him and see what he says. Yeah,
perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, well, it's nothing. Welcome.
Does anybody need a breakout room for anything? I know there was only one additional card on the board. It was regarding some continued PPBL work. Any breakout room requests? All right, let me know if you need one. I'm going to share a screen over here to pick up with this agenda item of thinking about smart contract specifications. And Hinson, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, to pick up that conversation. So just to give us a little bit of context, Hinson and I were just talking about the Aiken PBL course that he's building. I'm a contributor to it, but he's the leader. And we were just working on some possible learning target concepts for a module about writing specifications. Hinson, do you want to tell this part of the story about how we decided to make this module 201?
Actually, earlier today, it's because it's at night now in Hong Kong. So the daytime today, I visited the Waffle Capital office, just be kind of a friend with them. So I just occasionally I pass by Central District. I will, yeah, just go to sit a while into their office to talk about a bit. And Rafael from Waffle Capital is actually trying to learn more about icons. So I just take some time to just teach him a bit the basic on writing icon contracts. But just come to my instinct quite naturally. The first thing I talk to him is not about writing any code, but we take one example, which is doing a on-chain poker game, pretty centralized one, but we try to make it to be an example in upcoming Hong Kong Developer Series. So I just, by the way, just take time to build the course materials. And then and kind of very instantly just ask him to do an exercise to think about the specifications. And so that's why I just very quickly come into this idea, which is for multiple instances that I'm writing smart contracts seriously, for example, CNS, for example, the collapse with Cardano spot. Yeah, just different occasion. I do need the specification. But this thing is the things that seldom talk about in the community, or at least in the learner side circles, because it's kind of difficult to notice it before you're getting into any serious engagement with oh, there's another specification. So this is the story behind. So I'm thinking about, especially currently, when I try to write any smart contract, the first thing is come up with the specification. So that's why I come up with this idea to maybe just make specification into the kind of part of the PBL course, because we are try to preparing someone to be at least job ready in writing icon after it. So that's a story.
Didn't realize I was muted. Hinson, thanks for grounding that in kind of the real story, right? Like we're not just talking about people who can build stuff for their own sakes, but we're actually talking about building things for people who have problems to solve and specifications that help you communicate with somebody. It's such a great long-term reason to think about this. And just for anybody who's been participating in the Plutus PBL conversations, look at the narrative here, right? Don't even worry about what's inside of these modules yet, right? But we handle some prerequisites. We get people started. We have them write their first smart contract. And then this is innovative. We're still talking about transactions, but in this case, instead of having people hook up to like a Cardano node like we do in Plutus PBL, using the Aiken libraries to run tests with mock transactions. So it's similar to what we're doing here, right? Writing a smart contract and building first transactions. But because it's specific to Aiken, we can be a little bit more targeted, and you might even say more efficient with this approach to using the Aiken testing library. That's really cool. And so now people are going to see both sides of that. Yeah, Alex, what do you think?
Oh, so I don't know if you remember, but earlier, like this month, you asked me to write specifications for the first dApp, and I did that, and I shared it in the chat, and I added it to Notion. And then write the specification for smart contracts. While I was writing the specification for Faucet, I got the idea that it would be great to have some document outlining how to write specification in general. So I added it to the section documents in Notion, and also I will share it in the chat.
Excellent. Okay, and I'll jump to that in just a second. Yeah, thanks for that. So with this in mind, right, now that people have seen contracts and transactions, okay, now Hinson's thinking, let's start people on specifications here before we get into writing the really interesting projects, right? Some more interesting contracts. So now think about this over here, right? When we show people writing their first smart contract, this is why we need the specification that Alex is talking about, and we'll turn over to in just a second, right? We're going to deliver, maybe not in all of these languages, but in some subset of Plutus TX, Aiken, Helios, PluTS option. Maybe there's other ones missing from here. We're going to deliver the same simple contract so that people can start to learn from it. And then that becomes a resource that we can refer back to anytime. When we're building transactions, we can refer to this contract, right? When we start building other things, we're now going to have been able to think about it in terms of a spec. So yeah, this will just be a good reference material. So yeah, let's start with a look at the work that's already done. Okay. Most reading. The purpose, key features, the interactions, validators, the datums. Yeah, excellent. So these are going to all be part of things. Let's keep this and let's use this doc. The other one, how to write the specification. Yeah, I think this is a good proposal for steps to follow. Hinson, I know that you have a process as well. So let's look at this from both perspectives. I'm not going to race into, let's not decide yet that there's one way to do this. Here's one way. But let's take a look at the specification here and let's start to flesh out some of these details. So Hinson, is it worth it for you to share screen or is it?
Yeah, I could share something. I have a couple of examples on my hand. Actually, I do not have a strong opinion on what's needed in the specification, because for me, it's when I'm looking back into my experience, it's really case by case.
Yeah.
For different occasion, I have to communicate with different people, and then I will write the specification into a fashion that's a little bit different to the other times. Like there's an occasion I have to write the specification for another engineers to write the off-chain code. There's an occasion I have to write for the auditor to check for the scripts. There's also the occasion that I have to pass along the whole dApp to another parties to implement the things. So yeah, this is some codes that I could share. This is the content ownership piece of work that I've been working with Cardano Sport, and this repo is public, so I think there's nothing sensitive that I cannot share. So this is a kind of a example of the specification, the real world specification that have been done. That's basically outlining the requirements that are given by Jingles that time. And then this is the script action, like you have to do the setup, what the user can do, what the admin can do, and what's the validation needed to be get processed. The number here, the first number represents the number of represent the scripts. And then the second number here represent the order of redeemer, as I remember. So this is a basic outline, and then getting into each script, it's kind of outlining what is the param, what is the what is the actions. Perhaps it's missing a bit on the datum here because on that time I don't need to communicate with that team. So this is one piece of example, just outlining every piece of scripts and what does that mean, and what's the action, what's validation needed in order to get past it. So yeah, this is some of the examples. There's also other occasion where I really write. Let me find a bit the example. The specification for one script. There's something work in progress that I could show the gist. There's a script that I today work with a flag. A set. Yeah, this is a very centralized poker game that we try to build. So literally the README here is the whole specification, but it's not updated yet. So basically there's a validator script, but then what is the parameter, what is the datum, what is the redeemer, and then the user action. Just set what's going to be checked against each actions. So yeah, these are something that I could share in this open space. But yeah, so I kind of get different type of specifications, and then I do not have a strong opinion, and I think it's probably a good idea to incorporate at least writing simple specification into the maybe PBPL or ICANN PBL. The objective is very simple. It's to prep people to be kind of job ready in different perspectives. One is if you're an on-chain developer, you could pass along the code for an off-chain developer to write the off-chain code. This is one perspective. Another perspective is to pass along to the auditor to audit your code. Yeah, the third perspective is to just pass along the whole, maybe full stack application so that people can understand what the script is doing. So yeah, this is something that I could share here, and we could kind of asynchronously work a lot, different way of coming up with specifications. Yeah.
I'm pulling up the source code right now for the faucet the way we left it. Give me just 1 second.
Meanwhile, Hinson, you mentioned certification and audit, and so can you tell more about, or like we can discuss this more a little bit, because we looked at this process in certification working group, and the process of audit on Cardano is being currently regulated. CIP 96, I think, is in the proposal stage. And no, CIP 96 outlines certification metadata standard, which is not which is relevant, but not maybe very relevant to the developers who want to audit their contract. There's another couple of CIPs which regulate the process of how audit happens. And overall, what I learned is that if you want to do this, the thing that you need to study is the common criteria. Do you know that? Should I tell you about it?
The common criteria?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Where can I find the work in progress on these things? Because it's mostly in the proposal stage right now.
Right. I will share with you. But what is your goal? Because it is I can share with you the proposal for CIP 96, which is very fresh, but I don't think you need it, because it's more about.
I see.
It's more about organizing things, and you will be the user of CIP 96, but just until the metadata standard is approved, I don't think you have any use for it. But otherwise,
I mean, my motivation is more of finding any common grounds that I want to just take into consideration at this moment. Because from the perspective of course building, it's very straightforward. It's trying to prep people into some productive engineers. This is a end goal. And when you write the on-chain smart contract, it doesn't make anything happen if you only write the on-chain things. Either you could do the full stack, or either you could pass along the work for other people to do the off-chain, or other things. So the goal here is just make people job ready to be productive.
So far, so what do we have now? Cardano supports 3 levels of audit. The basic level, you have to have automated testing. Then the second level, you have to use property testing. I don't know why they ground the levels of certification in particular methods, but this is guided by the website that I shared. It's a standard which is accepted in the most of the developed world, where there's manual for the. And actually, I was working on the what's it called? Conformance claim. So what you do is you write conformance claim. And I have a proposal with the certification working group to write a course about the dApps certification. But we kind of consider that there's no it looks like the way to make people job ready with the certification and audit is not most viable via courses. You have to do this in practice, and at this level of like the rarity of the skills and the complexity, the way to learn is to participate in the working groups, let's say. Yeah, so certification working group is a group you can join and ask questions about it. Also, you can ask Ali, who knows quite a bit and much more than I do, and you can ask me about certification. I know the basics. But otherwise, like we were talking to Raman, who is the group lead there, and our sentiment was that doesn't make sense to write courses because very few people will take them, and it's simpler. So I learned these things just talking to Raman, like in chat and face to face, and like the most kind of you have to practice these things.
I see.
For example, property testing is like I learned property testing, I saw value and how it works, and I can explain why it's so cool just by doing advent of code, where I had to solve a kind of just abstract mathematical challenge or just like, you know.
I see. So I think the specification that I want to bring out is a bit different to the definition of specification in the specification working group. For my kind of definition of specification in a broader level is just a way to communicate how to work with your smart contract written.
Right.
And that's it. That's not to the security level of specification. Just to say on-chain code, producer level.
Fair enough. So there's a fine line, or maybe there's not a fine line, but very difficult to tell apart a smart contract specification, which is like product requirements, user stories, and things like that. And the more like it's the same documents, but just they are written in a more formal language. And there's like, for me, I understand why I cannot do this because it's very time consuming. So to turn specification and product requirements, which are used for development, and explain to another developer what the smart contract or like dApp should do, the same way you will explain your auditor that via document, which is called conformance claim, you will explain that this dApp does this and this, but just you use more formal language. And the thing is, like, you have to look this language up in this like certification standard, which is common criteria, and just write it very carefully, and it has to be unambiguous. So it's pretty close, and I was confused about it myself, and I'm still confused about it quite a bit. I wrote the specification just in like, you know, plain English as I see it. And the thing is, yeah, for audit, if you would imply security audit, first and foremost, it will be probably just back and forth with you and auditor who will help you write the specification in a way that like resolves ambiguities and provides auditor with confidence to say that your application is as secure as you say it is.
Ken, what do you think?
Let's see. So what, like with a specification, were you talking about more like an API, like how you interface with the application, or because if you're looking at the way that it connects with the process of verifying, you have a certain number of possible inputs that can be given to an application, and you have to know whether or not the restrictions that you on the inputs are dealt with in the application itself. So like either you can have the application reject inputs that don't fit a specific specification, or you can have a way of dealing with any given input. And the reason why you would want to do something like like automated testing is you want to see that the code that you have written, it fits what your perspective of a valid input should be. Like with property-based testing, you're giving it, and like you're defining what all the possible types of inputs can be, and then it's automatically throwing any input that follows that specification to the application and making sure that nothing breaks in the process of doing that. And also, like if you look at the application itself, like if you're doing formal verification of the application, you're making sure that the application, regardless of the input, there's a pathway to the application doing something that falls under the guidelines of what the application is supposed to do, like regardless of the input. So either you're looking at whether or not it takes a valid input and produces a valid output, or whether or not it takes any number of possible inputs and it can deal with problems, or whether or not you like verified that with each step in your code base, it can only do the things that you want it to do.
Yeah, I think I've got a much more clear idea what should be the kind of follow-up yeah, on the specification part. Probably I think in the perspective of PPDL or ICANN PPL, we don't have to teach the kind of whole formal specification on the smart contract, but rather we will like to confine the scope by a bit, but just as long as it serves the basic things, like perhaps we could think of another wording than specification, or add an adjective before specification, let's say informal specification or verbal specification, so that we just serve the purpose of as a development process, people think about what they want to write in the script before actually doing any coding. So maybe this is the way to go, and perhaps or probably we don't want to include the full specification in this kind of starting course. It's very easily scaring people away.
Yeah, I like that idea of just maybe thinking of a different word. And this is the key thing, right? Like Alex and Ken, you guys are speaking at a very high level, and it is essential and absolutely fascinating. But is the beginner student there, right? Is the person who finds this course on Google, like Nelson did a couple years ago, and sees the title, Write Your First Smart Contract, and says, yeah, I want to write smart contracts. Is this the first thing they want to hear, right? Because I was trying to imagine myself as a student listening to Alex, and I felt like I was back in college, right? Trying to keep up with a professor, and all I could think about is, oh, this professor is smarter than me. But it wasn't giving me any access to just jump in and do something. So remember, the purpose of this course is to jump in and do something. And this, thank you for this, Alex. Like, we might get here, right? But for me, yeah, again, maybe the word specification is wrong, but what I want as a developer, I just want to know what variables did the smart contract developer use over here, so that I have a quick reference to that when I'm building a front end, right? So all of the language means less. And what I really loved seeing from Hinson's example is that it lays out what those variables are. Here's a quick reference that we can use. Who can use it? Well, it can be used in a conversation between the Plutus developer and the front-end developer. It can be used with a client to think about, hey, Here's the system design you've got. It can start a conversation with an auditor, but it's not enough to finish that conversation. But our goal in this course is not to have people finishing conversations with auditors within the first part. We want them to go through these modules right here so that they understand just enough maybe to show up for the
Hello.
You know, here. Is it just me or everyone?
Something I lost you guys for a second. Was it me and
Maybe there's something with James'
yeah.
microphone.
Oh yeah, James is not
Yeah.
here. Sebastian is the host.
I was reconnecting my headphone, but there's something wrong with me.
Me too.
It's a little bit strange, but yeah, for me, like I took the specification just looking at Haskell code for the like I was just looking at the code and like what it does, and I didn't see your specification because did you share screen?
I'm not sharing right now.
No, not right now, but when you were explaining, James was saying like, oh, I've seen the specification, and I didn't see a specification, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, certification and like I'm pretty confused about this stuff because it's kind of you start to write instructions for a programmer how to write a smart application. How that's different from a course.
I still kind of start with the words specification because the first time I'm writing it is indeed very similar to the direction of property-based testing. Like I write some language like there's only one input from certain script address, one output to certain script address, and then the value at the output script address is at most the length to something like that.
Oh
I will
yeah, so
include
you're
that
talking
part
about
of description
properties
as well.
of transactions as well, right?
Not exactly property, but what are the checks that will be performed in the script? Just write that out. It's very explicitly for the off-chain developers to build the transaction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for me, if when I hear specification, I'm thinking about maybe it's like a specification for a protocol or something. And so it has to lay out everything step by step so that you could reproduce the functionality of that protocol just from the specification. So it gives you detailed instructions for what every single section means and what you can do with it or something.
My practice so far is for a single script, I would write it as detailed as possible. Like what is the exact checking on that script? What is the param, what's the datum, what's the redeemer? And then as per the protocol level specification, I would usually just keep it very high level. Like this is the first action you want to take, and if you want to take this first action, you have to pass through first script and then second script with these two redeemer, and then that's it.
Yeah, I think Alex, you were talking about just looking at Haskell code. I think that one of the reasons why that works is if you're talking about like different languages have different levels of restrictions on what's possible with the language. And so with Haskell, like since you can have guarantees that the outputs are based on the inputs, you can look at the type signature and sort of get the specification information from the type signature. So like there's sort of a dual perspective, like whether or not you do types or tests, because the types in some cases can give you some of the same level of security about what actually is happening as tests would give you.
Right, yeah. Maybe Adrian doesn't mind coming in because he's got a lot of experience with Haskell so far as I know. And for me, it's just why we don't need this kind of, like, I know it's a bad argument towards, but just like to me, it's the way it is. So why we don't need to write specifications, because we have all this stuff written in Haskell, and then Haskell they have this sort of culture of self-documenting code where you like look at the code and it's written in a way that it's easy to understand, and you don't need a natural language description of how it works in order to like, it's all there. So I don't know how it works with audit, and I hope Hinson can kind of move forward with that and do this, but otherwise looks like Haskell actually solves this problem for us, at least at the level of development and re-implementing the ideas that were developed in Haskell originally in other languages.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I think just to talk about a bit more on the thought processes. At the time I write this thing, informal specification, I'm not sure what the words to use right now. The idea in mind is I assume the reader to my repos don't understand anything on icon, don't understand anything on Haskell, just they could not read the code. So that when they look into these markdown files, they will be kind of pretty confident what to expect without really looking into the code. Yeah.
Yes, to some extent, like when you're programming in a pure functional language, like Haskell or Elm, like you can write the types first, and the types act as a specification, and then the compiler yells at you if you don't follow the specification. So that's one strategy of sort of thinking out the process of how things fit together first, and then writing the code later.
I lost me for a moment. Sorry. So Hinson, you were saying that you wrote a first dApps specification, and James was saying that your specification is more detailed. And from what you said, I get that. I wasn't aiming at the detailed specification because you know, it's like just more at the organizational level, what programmer is supposed to look at the document and then ask questions the way I see it. But you seem to be right now more detailed, more close to what would be needed for security audit. Is it right?
The first ever specification I have written is on CNS. That's a most detailed one that I've written, including what's the assumption, including some diagram on transactions, including every scripts, actions, and every validation logics, and include every error message and how we could reach that message. Just literally just everything, and a lot of just tests into describing how the protocol will work. But later on, when it comes into a more practical kind of scenario, which is just trying to get the rest done, it's more just simplify into describing what each individual scripts does. And then when users perform such actions, which scripts are kind of expected to pass through. Yeah. So I think as a kind of a on-chain code developer point of view, we don't have to exactly get everything about security specification because that's very niche. And for a lot of the time, you could get some help from the auditor if you're engaged with one. They will teach you how to write it or guide you how to build one. But for most of the time, when you try to be productive, you have to communicate that with other engineers. I think that's the most important part. Like when you're collaborating with others, most of the time you won't try to say it, just look into my source code and you will understand. Probably you will be getting scolded by the other engineers. Yeah. So it's more about the communication process and how to build the production. Yeah. How to build the communication process in try to build one dApps, I would say. That's a kind of necessary skill in my opinion.
Yeah. Communication is
Yeah.
yeah.
Or more kind of a better word, maybe just we can call that module maybe communicating your smart contract to others. Something like that, maybe. I don't know.
I think that's like 5 minutes left till the end of the meeting. Can we raise hands who wants to do a checkout?
Yeah, maybe just do a quick checkout. Not sure how to do the host. Maybe Alice, you can go first.
I mean, well, it's a pretty interesting meeting, you know, it's like, especially talking, we have a little bit of, I like the tension that we have, because it turned out we were doing the same thing. And it's always, you know, like, wow, we did the same. And then it's like, you have to compare. And, but we were doing the same thing with you quite a while and it turned out quite all right. And so I'm optimistic about this thing. And besides, we start to work more with Rust. And I'm pretty happy to see movements toward that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe my turn. Just following up that a bit, as I really love today's session as well. At least I learned something that I probably don't want to use the word specification easily. Probably I have to look into more deeply onto what it relates and yeah, pretty cool.
I think you can, because in the case that I was describing, it's a particular name. It's called like conformance claim, and then you have like specific names. This standard is very, very strict.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so you don't have to bother with that. You know, it's like it's better to do and then like, oh, I'm sorry, so something broke, and then to just think and. But I don't think I have difficulty with that. Very reactionary.
It creates confusion to you. Probably it will also create confusion to others. So better for me to think about how to deliver what I want to deliver. So yeah.
Sebastian, Ken, Adrian, Claudio, Nelson, do you want to say anything about today? Any like to share anything?
Hey guys, I'm glad that you're interested in specifications, and I was sure that as soon as the topic appeared, it would be contentious. Yeah, I like formal specifications, so I'm and the Haskell people, especially the Plutus, I mean the IoT people, they preach about how with Haskell everything is more formal and secure, but they seem to be doing precious little about showing it so far. So it's good you guys are talking about it. I'm going to and writing a little expose on how to think about the EUTX model including validators and specifications. So I will have something to say about it, but I'm writing like a blog post, and eventually I will give a playground presentation. So I'll tell you more about it then.
Yeah, I think that there's different levels of specification, and like you require much more detail if you want something that allows you to replicate the work of something, like replicate how something works, which is different than if you're trying to look at how just different pieces fit together within the context of a single team. So like, yeah, I think there's different levels of it. I think that if you do stick with the term specification, like it should leave it open that there's more levels to it than just the surface level. And so yeah, different people have different levels that they want for the security of how things fit together.
Yeah, Sebastian, how sure do you want to do a quick checkout?
I thought today's meeting was pretty good, and although some things like went over my head, I thought overall things were great. Yeah.
Adrian, Nelson.
Yeah, thanks guys for this. Yeah, specification writing is something that I have been wanting to learn a bit more about. It's something that it's always been on my mind, but I haven't, done hands-on work on writing specifications yet. So yeah, I'm hoping to learn a lot from you guys. I hope we can integrate it as some part in our latest video. And yeah, thank you for the session.
I will just, okay, yeah, Adrian, go ahead, please.
I joined late, so I have not much to say, but I think specification is important, but not sure if it's something that's easy to get for a new learner.
Thank you for speaking up, because it's always a pleasure to hear from you, man. I just want to end this, to recall to your use case, which you were talking about, and the difficulties of doing the property testing, especially formal verification in cases where you have several smart contracts which communicate between each other, and you have business case where you solve things with that logic. I'm working on it with a mentor of mine here in Cardano. It's a rather mind-blowing thing to think about. I'm glad that you, Adrian, working on this.
Yeah, dude, Sebastian want to do a quick checkout.
Hey, really good session, really interesting session. Specifications and
Yeah,
all those details, really good learning to me. Thanks a lot.
yeah, I'm still trying to learn, although I suspect myself have written something before, but probably I will bring this topic again. Not sure if I could prep something for tomorrow, but at least for coming sessions, I certainly set a group just to talk about specification.
Please,
Yeah, but before that, I have to do some research as well, just to make sure where exactly is my current position. I try to write something, but not sure if I can call it specification.
you're in a good position. Please.
Just joining a certification working group, or sending some of your team there. It's not maybe the most convenient. Well, it's 4 p.m. for me, and the Gimbalabs Open Spaces start at 4:30, so it's like half an hour earlier, once every 2 weeks, and in Intersect Discord. And they were looking actually for more engagement from the community, man. So if you join, or someone to join, the folks will be pretty happy, and I can introduce you to Roman and Simon, who and Mix is also active member of the group. So yeah, it will be
I
If you
see.
want to do these things about security and formal verification and things like that, I think it's a good
Yep.
way to.
Maybe I could ask you to for more info after this session. Certainly
worries.
happy to learn more. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, time is running short. Yeah,
All
just
right. Yeah. See you
quite the end.
tomorrow.
Yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Yeah, guys, thank you.